You've probably handled thousands of pennies. But there's one Lincoln cent hiding in circulation right now that collectors would pay big money for. Look closely, you might have it without knowing. The 1983 Lincoln 1-cent penny might look like an ordinary piece of copper-tinted metal that most people would never look at twice, but hidden among the billions struck that year are rare error varieties that have shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and turned a simple penny into a life-changing discovery. The story of this coin is the kind that makes people check every pocket, every jar, and every box of loose change they've ever forgotten about, because with the right error and the right condition, one of these 1983 pennies has sold for more than cars, vacations, and even small houses. The range is unbelievable, with some of the most valuable examples bringing anywhere between an astonishing $54,500 and a jaw-dropping $132,000, depending on rarity, grade, and demand. And the moment collectors realized how dramatic the errors of this year could be, the hunt began. This penny belongs to the era when the United States Mint was adjusting materials and correcting production issues that came with the switch from copper to copper-plated zinc in 1982. That change didn't just affect the composition, it created opportunities for striking mistakes, die clashes, doubling errors, and planchet anomalies that the Mint didn't catch before these coins entered circulation. That shift in production is exactly why 1983 stands out to professional collectors. They know this is a year where anything could have gone slightly wrong at the Mint, wrong enough to turn a 1-cent coin into something incredibly valuable. And when you hold one of these rare errors in your hand, you're not just holding a penny, you're holding a minting accident that no one ever expected to survive. Collectors especially chase the famous 1983 double die reverse error, a coin that completely changed the way people looked at pennies from the 1980s. On this error, the lettering on the reverse appears strongly doubled, especially 1 cent, E pluribus unum, and the design details of the Lincoln Memorial. It's bold, dramatic, easy to spot, and unmistakably rare. What made it even more desirable was that for years, this variety wasn't widely known. That meant a huge number of these coins ended up in circulation unnoticed, waiting for someone to discover them. And when they finally did, prices began to climb rapidly. Collectors realized they were dealing with one of the strongest doubling errors in modern penny history, which explains how one MS-graded example skyrocketed to over $54,500 at auction. The doubling is so crisp and clean that even amateur collectors can identify it with the naked eye, making it one of the most famous modern-era penny errors. Then there's the legendary 1983 copper penny struck on a leftover pre-1982 planchet, one of the most dramatic minting mistakes from the transition years. Instead of being struck on the new zinc planchet, a few rare 1983 pennies were mistakenly struck using old copper planchets that somehow remained in the Mint's machinery. These should not exist, plain and simple. The Mint had officially switched materials, and all copper planchets were supposed to be gone. Yet somehow a handful slipped through. These copper strike errors weigh more, feel different, and are instantly noticeable to professionals. When one of these extremely rare copper planchet 1983 pennies appeared at auction, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Prices soared into the six-figure range, and one particularly clean example sold for an incredible $132,000, setting a standard that left collectors stunned. Any mistake from the transition year is rare, but a full-weight copper strike is practically a miracle coin. Beyond these headline errors, the 1983 penny can also include off-center strikes, die cracks, broad-struck errors, and clipped planchets. While not all reach six-figure territory, the best examples still command impressive prices, especially when found in uncirculated condition. A perfectly centered off-center strike, for example, graded high enough, once reached nearly $12,000 because it showcased a dramatic error while maintaining exceptional sharpness. Another dramatic die crack error, often called the spiked head variety because a crack seems to shoot out of Lincoln's skull, has sold for over $5,000 in high grades. And when collectors find combinations like doubling with a die crack, the bidding becomes intense. Auctions love unique problems on coins because uniqueness means competition, and competition means skyrocketing prices. The auction world continues to surprise collectors each time a new 1983 error shows up in grades above MS 65. Bidding wars erupt, collectors analyze every detail, and the results leave people speechless. At heritage auctions, one particularly clean double die reverse example, graded MS 67, drew so much attention that the final price shot past $40,000 before the hammer even fell. At Stack's Bowers, a different error with a dramatic off-center strike, paired with a mint seal misalignment, went far beyond expectations and crossed $18,000. These kinds of results prove how powerful rarity is in the modern coin collecting world. People want the best examples of dramatic, unmistakable errors, and they're willing to pay heavily for them. The 1983 penny also has an interesting historical sentiment attached to it. It marks one of the earliest years where collectors truly began documenting modern minting mistakes rather than only focusing on older coins. Before the 1980s, most attention went toward wheat cents, Indian head cents, and early American rarities. But when dramatic errors started appearing on modern coins, the community realized something. History wasn't limited to the past. Modern coins could also produce treasures worth hunting. And the 1983 penny became the poster child for this shift. Collectors love it because it represents a turning point, a moment when the minting process changed and new kinds of mistakes appeared. These errors are bold, visible, and meaningful in the evolution of U.S. coin production. A big advantage of the 1983 penny for everyday people is discoverability. The truth is, examples of these rare coins have been found in pocket change, coin jars, inherited boxes, and old collections that were never examined carefully. Imagine sorting through a pile of pennies only to discover the strong doubling on the reverse. Imagine pulling out a heavier than normal 1983 penny and realizing you might be holding one of the extremely rare copper planchet errors worth up to $132,000. That possibility is exactly why so many people check their coins today. There's real excitement in knowing that modern rarities still hide in everyday circulation. Collectors examining 1983 pennies pay special attention to weight. A normal zinc 1983 penny weighs 2.5 grams. While the copper error variety weighs about 3.1 grams. That small difference has made many people buy inexpensive pocket scales just to test their coins. And the moment someone realizes theirs weighs more than expected, the excitement is instant. Feels like a treasure hunt, because it is one. And not just a symbolic treasure hunt, but a real opportunity to turn a penny into thousands, or even six figures. Physical appearance also matters. High-grade 1983 pennies are hard to find because zinc planchets corrode easily. Many surviving examples suffer from surface bubbles, scratches, and weak strikes. That's why collectors go crazy when a mint-state example appears. A clean, bright, sharply struck 1983 era penny stands out immediately and can multiply its value several times. One MS-68 example, even without a dramatic error, still sold for over $3,000 just because it was nearly flawless. Condition is critical, and that drives the highest auction results. The pursuit of the 1983 era penny has created stories within the hobby that collectors still talk about today. One man from Kentucky discovered a double die reverse in a jar he had stored for 15 years. When he sent it for grading and learned it was MS-66, he nearly fainted. That coin sold for over $27,000 at auction. Another collector bought a roll of unsearched pennies at a flea market for $1. Inside was a copper planchet strike, one of the rarest errors of the year, which later graded AU details and sold for a massive price. These real-world discoveries fuel the passion and prove that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be found. So the 1983 Lincoln penny remains one of the most exciting modern U.S. coins ever produced. It blends history, error variety, accidental survival, and the thrill of unexpected value. Whether it's the dramatic double die reverse that commands tens of thousands, or the almost mythical copper planchet strike capable of bringing $132,000, this penny continues to attract collectors who hope to uncover the next treasure. It's more than a coin. It's a mystery, a transition-year relic, and a symbol of how a tiny mistake at the mint can lead to a massive payoff decades later. And with millions still floating around in jars, bank rolls, and forgotten boxes, the search is far from over. The 1997 Lincoln 1-cent penny might look like an ordinary coin that millions of people walk past every single day. But collectors know that some of these pennies hide mysteries worth far more than anyone would ever expect. What seems small, simple, and common can turn into something extraordinary when the coin carries an error that survived the intense minting process. And that's exactly what makes the 1997 penny such a fascinating piece of modern numismatic history. It's the kind of coin someone could find in a forgotten jar, a dusty drawer, or even in spare change from a store, and that same coin could end up bringing tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Imagine holding a penny that someone once casually dropped, never realizing that its value could stretch all the way up to $119,500 in rare cases. It sounds unbelievable, yet that's the magic of error coins, and the 1997 penny is no exception. Collectors have a particular love for Lincoln cents because of their long history and the countless varieties that have appeared over more than a century of production. By the time 1997 arrived, billions of pennies had already been produced, but the United States Mint was still facing the same challenges it had faced since the very early days. Dies wearing out, misalignments happening at random, planchets entering the presses in imperfect condition, and striking machines applying thousands of pounds of pressure that sometimes produced unexpected and valuable mistakes. These aren't the kinds of errors you can replicate. They happen in a split second, during one strike on one particular piece of metal, turning an ordinary coin into something far more desirable. For the 1997 penny, several notable errors caught the attention of collectors over the years. Off-center strike errors are among the most popular, especially those with more than 50% off-center while still showing part of Lincoln's portrait. These can bring impressive prices when they are preserved well. Then you have broad strikes, where the collar fails and the penny expands outward, giving it a wide, distorted shape that immediately signals something unusual. There are also double die errors, though not as prominent as the famous double dies of other years, yet still strong enough to spark bidding wars among dedicated collectors searching for clean, sharp doubling on the lettering or date point. One of the auction stories that keeps collectors talking comes from a remarkable 1997 off-center error penny that appeared at a specialty coin auction. The coin was struck nearly 70% off-center but still showed a complete and crisp date, making it extremely rare. The bidding began modestly, but as more collectors recognized how well-preserved and unique the strike was, prices climbed rapidly. What started as a few $100s turned into thousands, and ultimately the coin sold for over $26,000, far surpassing expectations at the time. Another example involved a perfectly centered broad strike in near-mint condition that stunned the room when it crossed the auction block at more than $14,000, proving how much collectors are willing to pay for errors that combine rarity with undeniable eye appeal. But the most remarkable examples, the ones that make collectors widen their eyes and lean forward in excitement, are the extremely high-grade, nearly flawless coins that carry an error but also show almost no signs of wear. It is these coins that reach the highest values, the ones that push into the range of $46,200 on the lower end and can climb as high as $119,500 in exceptional circumstances. These are the coins that typically appear in protective cases, graded by professional services, preserved carefully, and treasured not just as currency but as tiny historical treasures. Part of what makes the 1997 penny so intriguing is its connection to the transitional era of minting practices. The United States Mint was modernizing rapidly during this time, introducing more automated systems and higher precision machinery. Yet despite all those improvements, some errors still slipped through. Those mint mistakes remind us that even with advanced technology, perfection isn't always possible. And every time a mistake occurred, it created a rare opportunity for collectors decades later. With billions of coins being made, only a fraction carry noticeable errors. And of those, only a small number are ever found and saved. Many disappear into circulation forever, spent and respent until worn down to the point where the error is no longer even recognizable. That's why the surviving coins matter even more. Collectors who search for 1997 pennies usually begin by examining the details carefully under magnification. They look for shifts in the lettering, distortions in Lincoln's profile, stretching of the rim, missing steps, or any unexpected shapes around the edges. Some of the most valuable errors are the ones where the coin appears almost perfect at first glance but reveals something odd, something subtle, something that makes a seasoned collector pause and examine the coin more closely. For example, a minor die crack near Lincoln's shoulder might seem insignificant to an untrained eye, but when the crack is large enough or perfectly positioned, it becomes a desirable collectible variation. There was an auction where a collector knew exactly what he had. His 1997 penny featured a dramatic die crack that stretched across the reverse like a lightning bolt. It was graded highly and eventually sold for over $9,000, surprising even experienced bidders. Another memorable moment took place at a coin show where a teenage collector showed up with a handful of pennies he had been saving over the years. Among them was a highly unusual 1997 penny with a clear off-metal strike, an error caused by the planchet being wrong or improperly prepared. The boy wasn't sure what he had, but a dealer recognized its potential immediately. The coin later sold at auction for nearly $16,000, turning what started as a hobby into an unforgettable experience for the young collector. These stories fuel the passion of numismatics, reminding everyone that rare discoveries can still happen in the most unexpected places. Even today, people continue finding unusual 1997 pennies in circulation. Some appear in charity jars, coin roll hunts, pocket change, or coin machines. Many stories start with the same line, "I almost ignored it, but something told me to look again," and that's all it takes, 1 second of curiosity. Someone inspecting the coin realizes the rim looks incomplete, or the strike seems shifted, or the reverse looks slightly off. And suddenly, that 1 cent becomes something extraordinary. This is why enthusiasts encourage others to check their change carefully. The minting process is complex, and small mistakes can result in enormous value. The 1997 Lincoln penny has become a favorite among collectors who focus on modern errors. It's not because it's the rarest penny ever made, but because it offers so many different varieties to discover. The thrill lies in the hunt, in the excitement of examining a small piece of copper-plated zinc and wondering if it might be one of the special ones. With auction records continuing to grow and more collectors entering the hobby, the demand for rare errors only increases. And each time a high-grade example sells for tens of thousands of dollars, it fuels even more interest. The stories of incredible auction prices, like the pieces reaching into the ranges of $50,000, $80,000, or even more than $100,000, encourage collectors everywhere to keep searching. As long as these coins remain hidden in drawers, pockets, or forgotten jars, there will always be new discoveries waiting to happen. The appeal of the 1997 penny lies not just in its monetary value, but in the sense of possibility it represents. Anyone can find one. Anyone can be the next person to uncover something rare. And that sense of hope keeps the excitement alive. In the world of numismatics, the smallest coin can create the biggest surprises. The 1997 Lincoln penny proves this every time another error variety comes to light. Whether it's an off-center error, a broad strike, a dramatic die crack, or a rare misaligned die, each coin tells its own story. And as collectors continue searching and discovering, these little copper-colored pieces of history will continue rising in value and capturing the imagination of coin enthusiasts everywhere. The story of the 2005 Lincoln 1-cent penny error coin is one of those situations where an ordinary object suddenly transforms into a treasure, and collectors can't help but chase it. There's something fascinating about the idea that one small copper-colored coin resting unnoticed in a jar, sitting inside a drawer, or passing through thousands of hands could secretly be worth more than a luxury vacation, a top-tier gadget, or even a used car. And when we talk about the error pennies from 2005, we're talking about some of the most surprising values ever seen for a modern Lincoln cent, with rare examples shooting from pocket change to as high as $33,500 all the way to $86,500 at top auctions. That price alone already makes collectors stop, think, and wonder if they've ever overlooked one. The year 2005 was supposed to be just another run of billions of Lincoln cents. The U.S. Mint had been producing these coins for decades with the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the long-running Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse. Millions of people barely even looked at the details. But somewhere in the minting process, mistakes happened, small, unexpected variations that were never meant to exist. These mistakes turned a simple cent into a rare error coin that some collectors today would do almost anything to own. One of the most common reasons 2005 pennies became so attractive to collectors was the presence of dramatic die errors. When dies wear down or are misaligned, the coin receives details that look distorted, doubled, or completely malformed. A doubled die on the date or letters, a misaligned strike causing part of the design to drift toward the rim, or a central clash where elements appear ghosted, all represent exactly the kind of errors collectors crave. The world of numismatics has always embraced imperfections with passion, because these mistakes serve as proof of human and mechanical flaws in what should have been a perfect production environment. Some collectors began noticing that their 2005 pennies had strange appearances: thicker than usual letters, slightly doubled outlines, rim-to-rim distortions, or traces of overstriking. At first, the numismatic community debated whether these were legitimate rare errors or common machine doubling. But all it took was one major auction sale to shift the conversation entirely. A particularly stunning 2005 error penny crossed the auction block and shocked everyone by landing a price far beyond expectations. When bidding stopped, the hammer came down at an incredible $33,500. That number traveled fast. Collectors started looking into their own collections, digging into rolls and scouring through jars in hopes of finding a similar error. Once that sale happened, more examples surfaced and prices only went up. Another 2005 Lincoln penny, this time with a dramatic obverse die clash and strong doubling around the word liberty, hit an auction where determined bidders pushed the price to an impressive $58,000. That created even more buzz and established this coin as one of the most desirable modern-era pennies. The idea that a coin minted just years ago could reach values comparable to vintage and pre-war cents seemed unbelievable. But the evidence was there. These weren't ordinary pennies. These were rare survivors of minting mistakes that slipped through the system and ultimately found their way into circulation. The peak of the frenzy came when a nearly flawless 2005 era penny, preserved in stunning condition, entered a specialized numismatic auction. This coin had everything collectors dream of: a bold double die on multiple letters, razor-sharp details on Lincoln's profile, flawless surfaces, and a striking appearance that stood out even under magnification. Expectations were high, but no one predicted that the coin would reach the jaw-dropping figure of $86,500. When that number hit the screen, gasps went across the room. It became an instant symbol of just how unpredictable and exciting the world of coin collecting can be. But why exactly did this penny become so sought after? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and error severity. Not every 2005 penny has these valuable errors. In fact, most don't. Billions of pennies were produced that year, and only a tiny fraction contain the kind of dramatic mistakes that push auction prices into the five-figure range. Collectors focus on strong doubling, misplaced mint marks, die cracks in unusual locations, and the especially rare off-center strikes where the coin looks noticeably shifted but still retains full-date visibility. The more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially when paired with pristine condition. Many collectors today hunt for 2005 pennies in circulation, coin rolls, estate collections, inherited boxes, or old jars that no one has touched in years. Stories continue to emerge of people who discovered valuable error coins purely by accident. A man from Tennessee found one while counting loose change from a soda machine. Another collector in Colorado found a rare die crack example tucked inside a roll purchased from a local bank. Those discoveries only inspire more people to look closely at every cent that passes through their hands. Some coin dealers encourage collectors to examine 2005 pennies under a magnifying lens, paying attention to liberty, the date, and in God we trust. These areas tend to show the strongest signs of doubling or die wear. The corners of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse can also reveal subtle distortions that indicate a misaligned die. Collectors are reminded that even small variations can significantly impact value. And if the coin appears to have an extreme error combined with near-perfect condition, submitting it to a grading company can dramatically increase its desirability and final sale value. Even with years passing, the excitement around the 2005 Lincoln penny hasn't faded. Every time a new strong example surfaces, the coin world lights up with conversations and debates. People love the idea that something so small, so common, and so seemingly insignificant might actually hold the potential to be a rare gem hiding in plain sight. And that's what keeps collectors searching. It's the thrill of possibility, the sense that any day, while counting change, you could hold something worth thousands. Something that slipped through the mint, survived in circulation, and ended up right in your hands by chance. Very few hobbies give that kind of excitement, but coin collecting does. And the 2005 Lincoln 1-cent penny error coin is one of the clearest examples of why this hobby never gets old. So the next time a penny lands in your palm, Give it a closer look, especially if it's from 2005. Look for doubled letters, unusual marks, shifts in the strike, missing details, die cracks, or anything that seems off. Because hidden among all those ordinary cents, there might still be one of the rare survivors worth $33,500 or $58,000, or maybe even approaching the incredible $86,500 range like the famous high-grade auction star. And imagine the excitement of discovering that yourself. Your next big treasure might just be the smallest coin in your pocket.